The NBA draft is coming on once again, and if your team did not reach the finals, then you're either happy with who you got, or you're watching a bunch of highlights convincing yourself they're going to break the NBA. But in all seriousness, this definitely was one of the most interesting drafts in the past decade. So because of that, we're going to talk about the teams that made the most significant moves. Because let's be real here, y'all ain't trying to hear the moves of all 30 teams. Like, who cares about who the Nets drafted?
I do.
Alright, you know what? Fine. With the 27th pick, the Brooklyn Nets selected you know what? I'm not gonna try to pronounce that. Let's just get to the rest of the video. Number 1, the Atlanta Hawks. So for those of you who don't know, I've lived in Atlanta my entire life. So I've become used to the one thing that every Atlanta team does: overperform in the regular season and then disappoint in the playoffs. But this offseason and draft, they arguably took the biggest W. So firstly, on June 6th, the Hawks traded Taurean Prince and a 2021 second rounder to the Brooklyn Nets for the 17th pick and a future first rounder. This move was already great in itself because now they don't have to worry about paying Taurean Prince next year. But then a few hours before the draft, they traded up to get the number 4 overall pick while also managing to keep that 10th pick. And with that 4th pick, they selected DeAndre Hunter. And personally, I don't think he was the best available prospect at that time, but he's definitely what Atlanta needs. A phenomenal off-ball defender that can become a great starting 3-and-D guy. And with that 10th pick, Cam Reddish managed to fall to them. And on a lot of draft boards before the season started, Cam Reddish was going top 4, top 5. I think a big reason as to why he fell that low is because of the fact his college stats really aren't that pretty or impressive. But honestly, I just see that as a result of him playing with Zion and RJ at Duke, and he's just sort of this third wheel. So honestly, Atlanta fans, if you see that and you're worried, really don't be, because personally, I can see him being as good, if not better, than Rudy Gay in his prime at the Grizzlies. And lastly, they traded up in the second round to draft Bruno Fernando at number 34. And my first reaction to watching this guy is, how the hell did he manage to fall out of the first round? He has such a phenomenal offensive game, amazing footwork, great post game, great low post playmaking, and he's really agile for his size. He's also, I'd say, a below average, maybe okay shooter, but I think with some time and development, he can become a good pick and pop big man. So what I've seen from Fernando thus far, I think he can translate his game to the NBA to be sort of a more athletic version of Al Horford, and we've seen what he's been able to accomplish in his career, and the fact that he started off as a guy who didn't really shoot that much to a guy that hit over 233s in the past 4 seasons. So with all that, Atlanta definitely took a really big W this draft, and they have arguably the best young core in the NBA. So Atlanta fans, congratulations, y'all might actually win something. Number 2, the Phoenix Suns. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to not like yell or throw something across the room because, quite frankly, my hairline really just can't handle the stress. So firstly, the Suns traded TJ Warren in their 32nd pick to the Pacers in order to clear up cap. Now this move in itself isn't as terrible as Twitter's making it out to be, because the Suns had a bad logjam at the wing spot, and it's pretty clear that Kelly Oubre Jr. is their 3 of the future. I know people are saying things along the lines of, oh, they traded a 20 points per game scorer for basically nothing. But honestly, those are pretty empty stats, and he has a hard time staying healthy. I think the most games he's played in his season was like 66, and this past season he only played 43. The point of this is to unload cap, but I don't think his contract was bad enough to warrant giving up an early second rounder. But hey, maybe they're trying to make moves to sign D'Angelo Russ. I mean that's cool, I guess. They also had the 6th pick. Now, if you're a level-headed franchise, you either draft one of Darius Garland or Kobe White because of your glaring hole at point guard. However, if you're Robert Sarver, you trade down to the 11th pick. I don't care what anyone says. Dario Saric is not good enough to warrant trading down 5 spots. And you want to know what they selected with the 11th pick? Another fucking wing! And not just any wing, they selected Cameron Johnson. Let me put this into perspective with y'all. Devin Booker just finished his 4th year in the NBA. Ben Simmons just finished his 2nd official year playing, hashtag not a rookie, and they're both 22 years old. You want to know how old Cameron Johnson is? Cameron Johnson has yet to play an NBA game, and he is 23 years old. In no mock draft I read did anyone have him being picked above 20. Robert Sarver picked him at 11 just to overcrowd your wings again, even though you just unloaded one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not even the end of it. They traded up to the 24th pick to select a backup point guard when you don't even have a starting point guard. And with that trade for the 24th pick, they also had to take on Aaron Baines' salary to get it. So basically, they traded TJ Warren's salary away to clear up cap, but then do a trade and take on salary. And if you're thinking, oh, they're probably just gonna do a buyout. Nope, he's playing next year. So it's very confusing as to what Robert Sarver is trying to do. First, he trades away TJ Warren for cap room. Then reports say they're not going to go after a point guard in free agency. Then they trade out of the 6th pick where a franchise point guard is available to them and select another wing. And then trade up, take on the salary after you gave up assets to dump some salary to select a backup point guard when you have no starting caliber point guard. You know, honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if someone told me that Robert Sarver just had some huge grudge at Devin Booker and he's just doing all the stupid things to waste his career. And Suns fans, if this draft wanted to make you slam your head against a rock, just remember, at least you're not the Knicks. Actually, the Knicks did get RJ, so yeah, I guess y'all are pretty screwed. Number 3, the New Orleans Pelicans. Firstly, yes, in an ironic twist of fate, the Pelicans got Zion after wasting the first 7 years of AD's career. But we're not going to talk about him because it's pretty obvious why that's a dub. Although if you tell me you didn't start tearing up at Zion's interview, you're either A, lying, or B, have no soul. So with that 4th pick they acquired from the Lakers in the trade, they traded it to the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for the 8th, 17th, and 35th picks to select Jackson Hayes, Nick Hale, Alexander Walker, and Marcos D.D. You know what? I'm not even going to try pronouncing that. So basically, Jackson Hayes is just really athletic and he has a high defensive potential. So next year, you're definitely going to be seeing a bunch of Lonzo to Jackson Hayes lobs. And it's definitely going to be fun seeing how Zion and Jackson Hayes' athletic abilities are able to complement each other. And as for Alexander Walker, he's a great rotational piece that isn't super athletic or fast enough to beat his man off the dribble, but he can be a great shot creator off the bench. And the other guy whose name I'm not going to try pronouncing, he's a draft and stash prospect. Now going back to the whole Anthony Davis trade, to put it in perspective, this is what the Pelicans have now gotten in exchange for him. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, a 2020 Cleveland protected first round pick, a top 8 protected 2021 pick that becomes unprotected in 2022 if it's not conveyed, a 2023 unprotected swap, an unprotected 2024 first round pick with the option to defer to 2025, and getting off of Solomon Hill's contract. Wow. You know, honestly, it's kind of funny because the Pelicans have managed to put a better young core around Zion in one whole day than they did with Anthony Davis in 7 years, which is also why I view this more as a retooling process than a full-on rebuild. So kind of like what the Celtics did with that Nets trade back in 2014 and are likely to have to do it again. Now the last team I want to talk about isn't exactly a team per se, but a player. That player is Bol Bol. So Bol Bol is the son of former NBA player 7'7" Manute Bol. He is 7'3", moves and shoots like a guard, and was projected to go top 5 during the preseason. And even right before the draft, many teams still had them on top 20 of their draft boards. So why did he fall halfway through the 2nd round? So to start the year, he was 236 pounds, and with the 7'3" height, that's already pretty light. But then after 9 games, he had a stress fracture in his foot, and then after that managed to lose 30 pounds. After that, a lot of teams just viewed him as a guy who could probably injure himself a lot more because of how his frame is set up. He has really long legs, his waist is high up, so if he gets some sort of leg injury or knee injury, he's basically done. Now this situation is somehow an L and a W. It's an L for the reasons I just stated. A lot of teams had him at top 20 but fell to 45th. There's worries about injuries, and he himself does not have a guaranteed contract. But the reason why it's also a W isn't because of when he got drafted, it's because of where. Well technically Miami, but he got traded to Denver, but you know what I mean. Personally, I think this is a perfect fit. And at this point of the draft, fit is the thing that matters most for you to succeed. Just a reminder for y'all, back in 2015, the Nuggets' best player, Nikola Jokic, was picked 41st, and now he's arguably a top 10 player in the league that almost led his team to the conference finals. So despite all the worries about his size and injury, I honestly still think he has a really high upside. And let's say that Jokic is able to mentor him and polish his game, he builds up his frame a bit, who knows, maybe him and Jokic can become like a Twin Towers duo. So honestly, if Bol is determined and he puts in the work that is needed, he can become a future star in this league and prove all the teams that passed up on him wrong. So yeah, that's really all I have for you today. If you liked this video, be sure to check out my other ones if you haven't already, and subscribe so you can be notified for future ones. I do also have Twitter and Snapchat, so if you want to see me talk about my opinions on basketball, or if you want to see some behind the scenes and sneak peek content I'm working on, be sure to follow and add me. Also, next week's video is going to be about the Boston Celtics and their entire situation that's transpired over the past year, and honestly I'm really excited for y'all to see it because I'm really proud of it. So make sure to click that bell for notifications because I do post every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for now on the situation, I'll say this: Danny Ainge, Kyrie leaves, fine. No trade for AD, it's whatever. Can't negotiate a contract with Al Horford, fine, I guess, you know, can't be helped. But when you trade Aaron Baines, man, you just gone way too far. You gone way too far.